Selamat siang kepada Bapak Ibu yang sudah bergabung di acara webinar siang hari ini. Kami mengucapkan terima kasih atas partisipasinya. So we are welcoming everyone that have participated in today's webinar session, Unlocking International Philanthropy for Indonesian CSOs. Before that, I will make the opening and then I will start in Bahasa and then we will continue in English. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Selamat siang dan selamat datang kepada seluruh peserta webinar Myriad Alliance White Space. Yang kami hormati Bapak Gusman sebagai Executive Director dari Philanthropy Indonesia. Dan kami memberikan apresiasi untuk teman-teman dari Philanthropy Indonesia yang sudah memberikan support atas terselenggaranya kegiatan kami. Kegiatan White Space kami adalah bagian dari rangkaian kegiatan Philanthropy Festival 2025 dengan tema Philanthropy Culture and Ecosystem for Better Impact, Unlocking Philanthropy Potential for SDGs and the Climate Agenda. Next slide, please. Yes, so in today's session, we have few panelists that we have been invited. Some of them, they are present in Econusa office. We are also saying our gratitude for Econusa who has been hosting us here. And then we have also Ibu Esti that being here from Lentera Foundation. And we have Alexi from Myriad USA, Liam from Myriad Australia. We have Doan of Yayasan Insan Guna in Bali, and Mia from Yayasan IDEP, who is also based in Bali. Next slide, please. So maybe I can explain a bit how we work during this webinar. So at the moment, there is, the participant cannot speak during the presentation, but there is a Q&A feature at your screen. And also we provide translations that actually you can access if you click the show captions button. Then you can select the language and then there will be a translations shows. However, in the question and answer, you are free to ask questions in Bahasa. Then I will be the one who's doing the translations for the panelists. So question and answer will be at the end of the webinar, but we have read the questions that have been raised during the registration process. Yes, thanks. So briefly, this is our program today. We're going to give a brief introductions about Myriad Alliance, and then our guest speaker from Myriad USA and Myriad Australia is going to present the cross-border global giving. And then we have a case study from IDEP Foundation in Bali, and then Yayasan Insan Guna in Bali, and then we will have a short discussions and then question and answer follow after. Next question, next slide. Right, so what is Myriad Alliance? The Myriad Alliance is a network of independent philanthropy service organizations based around the world. So basically, we're helping to simplify charitable giving across borders to communities that need the most. Next session. So as you see in the screen at the moment, we have 9 Alliance members, which is present across the globe. Jadi Bapak Ibu, member-member kita ini berada di seluruh penjuru dunia ya. The Give Trust itu base-nya di New Zealand, kita ada Give to Asia China, Give to Asia USA, Myriad Australia, Myriad USA, Myriad Canada, Myriad Europe, and Temasek Trust Foundation Advisors based in Singapore. And then we have the Prism Gift Trust based in the UK. So practically, Myriad Alliance is an aliansi ya Bapak Ibu, dan networknya sudah sangat luas. Dan pada kesempatan saat ini kita hadir di Indonesia di acara kegiatan FIFES dan beberapa dari member kami hadir juga dan kita bisa berbicara lebih lanjut. Next. Right. Jadi berdasarkan laporan kita based on our report in 2023, we have collectively granted 341 million US dollar worldwide. And then part of these funds also entering Indonesia. So this is already a big features. And we have been supporting our network in the 6 continents. Next slide. Right, so as you can see on the screen, these are the proportion of the percentage, and Southeast Asia representing 2.8%. But you can see the funds also quite equally spread towards the region. Next slide. Right. Some of you might ask, what are the subjects that actually, or the program focus? Myriad Alliance members did not focus only in one particular subject, yeah? So we have also seen the art and culture, climate and environment, civil society, disaster response, education, health, and poverty and social justice. In Indonesia, we have 4 partners that become our disaster response team. And they have been actively participating with us and then giving supports on disaster response in Indonesia. Next. Right, so this is briefly about Myriad Alliance. I'm going to introduce our colleague from Myriad USA. At the moment, we have Alexi here, all the way from Manila, come to Jakarta. Welcome, Alexi. Welcome to Jakarta. So Myriad USA is a New York-based, right, Alexia, yeah. Facilitating the effective giving across the globe. So briefly about Alexi. Alexi is currently based in Manila. She's previously served as Director Operation at Give to Asia. Maybe some of our participants here have been heard about Give to Asia, but then we have changed since last year, and then now the names become Myriad USA. Yeah, Give to Asia operating differently. So Alexi has been provided oversight on the funds program, grant making operations, and was a country advisor team also. Previously, Alexi was with the Asia Pacific Philanthropy Consortium, an independent association that supported the growth and development of philanthropy in the Asia Pacific region, and with Ayala Foundation. She is the expert. So we are very pleased to have Alexi here, and then is going to proceed with the next topic and then giving more explanations about US giving. I give you the floor, Alexi.
Thank you so much, Juanita. So next slide, please. So thank you so much for our participants here. I see a number of familiar names. Some of our partners who are based in Indonesia are also in the audience. So thank you so much for gracing this webinar as well. So yeah, so I'm here to talk about Myriad USA. And as Juanita was saying, this webinar really is about how you can tap into overseas giving. So I'd like to give the perspective from Myriad USA. So I am currently the manager of the Asia Pacific region at Myriad USA. So I take care of our partnerships and the organizations that have been facilitated grants to from the US into Asia Pacific region. So next slide, please. So to give a brief introduction about Myriad USA, so we are considered as an intermediary organization wherein we work with both US-based donors and we help them in facilitating grants from the US into other parts of the world, right? So can we go back to the next slide? To the other slide, please. Right, just to give a bit of a introduction. And apart from working with donors, we also work with foreign nonprofit organizations and offer them a solution so that they can tap into their US donors by giving them this cost-effective solution of what we call the American Friends Funds. And so later on in the discussion, we can talk about how this works and provide you some examples with the organizations that we have also invited here to speak. So as Juanita had said, Myriad USA must be a new name for some of you. As you can see here on the left, on the right side of the screen, Myriad USA is a new name out of a merger between the King Bodwan Foundation in the United States, who is also an intermediary, and Give to Asia, right? So Give to Asia had merged with King Bodwan Foundation US in 2024, and now we are called Myriad USA. So let's move on. I just wanted to talk about the understanding why people give in a more general sense, right? So let's move on to the next slide. So what are some of the reasons why people give? So I listed down here some of the motivations, right, of why donors support charities. So first, we have altruism. So people do give because they believe in the cause and want to see improvements and make the world and be part of making the world a better place. So that's why we see some of these donors find alignments in the interests that they hold against the organizations that they choose to give. Another is giving back. It is a desire to repay an organization, such as an alumni in the university or in a hospital. If, say, for example, the donor was a former patient, or in a lot of cases that we see now, there is a lot of diaspora giving that we're seeing, wherein nationals or outside of their country of origin would like to give back to their country, to their region even, or to a specific organization that they were formerly part of. Also asks from trusted groups is another motivation. People give to those that they know, trust, and respect. So this, I think, is very important. And we've seen a lot of these questions from you, from the participants as well. So what is a key factor in giving? And primarily, it really is trust. So it is dependent on the relationship that the donor has with the organization that ultimately prompts them to support, right? Another is to be part of a social group. So there's some societal expectations, especially with high net worth individuals, for example, to be charitable and to support causes. And lastly, which I think is very familiar in the Indonesian setting, is religious commitment. So it's giving that is centered around spiritual beliefs and practices as well. So if we go to the next slide, I'd like to focus a little bit more on the charitable giving in the US in specifics. So in the US, and I would like to share with you some numbers later on. I would just like to share what is the environment there. We always hear, especially like NGOs in the Global South, for example, always look to the US in terms of seeking support, right? And so if we take a little bit of a step back, why is there that kind of thinking? What is the environment there that enables US donors to be ready to give? So basically, there is this culture of giving. It's already ingrained in the American culture that they have this attitude, they have this behavior, so to speak, to be able to support a person in need or an organization in need, for example. So there's always that impetus or that push to give. And then what makes it also easier is because they have a variety of ways to transact. So they have developed different ways to make it easy for donors to give charitably, from the smallest dollar to the biggest dollar. And when I say that, it's really about being able to transact in a variety of ways. Then the next is largely, you also hear this, are the tax benefits. So there are generous and targeted incentives for donors to give that is related to tax deductibility. Then there are various ways for donors to give charitably that's kind of related to transactions, but at the same time, it's not just the manner of transactions, it's also how they can give, whether it's through bequests, for example, naming an organization in their will. It is a common practice, for example, and also employee giving, for example. They've been able to create systems to make this easy as well. And lastly, planned giving, like what I mentioned, like giving through bequests, is something that is quite common and is easily doable in the US, allowing them to give beyond their lifetime. So again, this is something to keep in mind in terms of understanding the culture of giving from the US. And now, just to show a little bit more on those numbers, as I was saying, on the next slide, you will be able to see these reports regarding US charitable giving that was just published, I believe, a few months ago, which is Giving USA, right? And these are 2024 numbers, and I would like to bring your attention to the largest part of the pie, which is 67%. And that represents giving by individuals, which I think, if you think about it as an iceberg, so this is the bottom of the iceberg. We usually see giving by foundations, we usually see giving by corporations, but what isn't realized or tapped is really the giving by individuals. And this actually represents the total US giving. And this includes giving domestically and internationally, right? And so, as you can see in the numbers, if you compare it to 2023, it is growing over time. Though of course you could see some fluctuations if you look at the report, but the US total giving is really growing if you look at it in the private philanthropy space, right? So this is something that I'd like you to also keep in mind, that beyond the foundations, beyond the corporations, tapping individuals is certainly something that you can consider when you think about diversifying your resources. And just to give you an idea about what I'm talking about in terms of the tax code or the tax deductibility in donations, we can go to the next slide. This is just to give you an idea of what it means for US donors when they give. What are the kinds of benefits that they have in terms of tax deductibility, right? So you could see here that if they give via cash or traded securities, there's an automatic deductibility already. And this is something that they talk about with their accountants, with their lawyers, when they account for their charitable giving. They are quite aware of this, and so they would of course want to claim this kind of benefit. We don't have to go through the details, but I just wanted to show you the variety and the incentives in terms of how US donors can give, and therefore giving them this push, right? And these exactly are what is in the mind of the US individuals when they give, and all the variety that is available to them. So from the gifts of cash, securities, insurance policies, bequests, I already talked about that. Then of course, there's also property such as stocks, artwork, for example, and all of that all would be what is eligible for the tax deductibility. Now, if you have a US donor with this in mind, of course, they would have to consider, where should I give them? So the only way actually for the US donors to be able to receive these incentives is to give to a US public charity, right? And What about giving overseas? So the organizations outside of the US that would like to tap into their US donors or would like to give a solution for them to receive these tax incentives, they actually have two options. So I will talk about that in my last slide, just to close off this section on US giving. So foreign nonprofits would have the option to tap into their US donors through two ways. Obviously, the first way is to set up their own US public charity, which is what we call a US 501c3. So this means establishing and registering an entity in the US, which might take up more time and resources. As you can see in my notes here, it could take 6 to 12 months minimum to register, and it might need registrations in different states just to get just to get the registration to fundraise, right? And then of course, there are costs involved in terms of maintaining, apart from registration, there is of course maintaining the entity itself. You also have administrative requirements, just like how you would have requirements in maintaining your own local NGO, so to speak. So you can imagine that would be the same in the US. What are the benefits to setting up a 501c3? There is this perception of control. There is also what they call a cachet or a prestige that you have a US entity, you have a US organization. Then there's also, of course, benefits exclusively available for a public charity, and that includes providing the tax deductibility for donors. But if you look at it in a practical perspective, when should a foreign nonprofit engage, in setting up a 501c3? This is when you actually need that presence in the US, and whether you need that full-time staff and office space in the US. But there is an alternative to that. If you find this resource heavy, of course, you can work with an intermediary like Myriad USA, where we can host a fund for you. With Myriad USA being a US public charity, we can accept donations on behalf of this of local nonprofits. The setup time is shorter, the resources are smaller needed in terms of registering your organization with an intermediary. And the donations that you receive that we receive on your behalf will be released to you through simple requests and grants, right? So these will be considered as international grants. So in effect, you can consider these two ways as you think about your fundraising plan and how it aligns. But definitely, this is something that you should keep in mind in terms of when you're planning to tap into your US donors. It's interesting to see like what are the motivations to give, and at the same time align that with what US donors would need. So yeah, I will end my section here, but of course we will have time for questions later. You can certainly put that in the box right now. So over again to you, Anita.
Thank you, Alexi. This is a very, very interesting explanation. As much as we want to hear more about America, which is, I believe there's still a lot of potential in it, we want to go forward to overseas giving from Australia. So on the panel, we have Lim Nguyen. Thank you, Lim, for being here in Indonesia, all the way from Melbourne. We are so happy to have you here. So Lim Nguyen is a philanthropy professional focusing on the cross-border giving and community engagement. As International Philanthropy Associate at Myriad Australia, he helps donors connect with impactful, locally led solutions across the globe. Previously, he managed grant making for a private family foundation, supporting initiatives in education, employment, and cultural inclusion. So, Lim, happy to have you here. We are looking forward to hear more about Australia giving. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Juanita, and thank you so much, Alexi, for sharing the US context as well. It's always quite amazing for me to hear. The sheer numbers are quite massive in the US, but Australia does offer something very unique for Indonesian civil society organizations, right? And I'll be explaining a lot of this to you today. So hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, and it's fantastic to share with you this opportunity and the ecosystem that we have available in Australia. So in terms of the philanthropic landscape in Australia, our total philanthropic giving is $18.9 billion to Australian registered charities in 2024. So this is the total number of funds that's been given to from individuals, from corporations, from our trusts, foundations, and also the institutional donors as well. $2.5 billion of this was donated to grants and donations overseas. So yeah, this is the number that you might be most interested in. And then on top of that, $1.5 billion was donated by the top 50 Australian corporates as well. So this is the top end of town, and there's a long tail end of smaller corporations, smaller businesses, and medium enterprises. The data's not captured, right? But in the Australian philanthropic ecosystem, we're led by our peak body called Philanthropy Australia. And they're pushing all of the structured giving, your trusts, your institutional donors to give more, right? And the goal is to give $5 billion per year by 2030. So this number started at $2.5 billion in 2020, and there's a big push for donations by these big institutional donors. So at Myriad Australia, we focus on supporting donors in Australia give overseas, but we also support international charities just like yourself fundraise in Australia as well. So we, along with our friends like the Australian International Development Network, right, pushing Australian donors to donate more overseas. And something that might be interesting to note is the structured giving. Institutional donors have to give 4 to 5% away to charities per year, right? And there's been a push by the government and other policy changes and advocates as well to increase this percentage. So they have to, there's been pushes to say you have to donate 7 to 8% as well of the value of your foundation. But it doesn't really end there. There's capacity to really grow this ecosystem as well. And there's been a recent report by Start Giving, which supports the tech sector philanthropists, this new generation of philanthropists through tech entrepreneurs and that side of things. So the recent report shared that $25 billion was available in potential and giving potential from this sector of new generation philanthropists as well. And the beautiful thing about this sector of people is that they're younger, they've made their wealth very quickly, and they're very keen to give it away very quickly as well. They have quite a global mindset, and they think about scale quite often as well. So it's fantastic that the scale of international projects is very enticing for this segment of donors. And what's also interesting is they're very diverse in Australia as well. So a lot of Asian Australian founders in this segment. Melanie Perkins, for instance, from Canva, she gives a lot per year as well. And on a similar vein, but switching gears just slightly on an Australian governmental level, right? The Australian government, unlike other Western governments, have increased our official development assistance, our foreign aid. Other Western countries have cut and slashed quite aggressively as well. So it's good to know that the Australian government sees our position in the Indo-Pacific region, in ASEAN region as a key player, and we want to assist more. So our philanthropic organizations are continuing to give more. There's a big push, as well as the government as well. And you can see here on the screen, $352 million was given to Indonesia and Indonesian causes by the government as well. So we'll go to the next slide. And I'll explain to you a little bit about really the connection Australia and Indonesia has with each other, right? And this week I was my first time in Jakarta and very fortunate to discover the concept of gotong royong as well. This cultural philosophy that Indonesians have, and it makes me understand why Indonesians are the #1 generous country in the world. Right, and it's beautiful to think about. So in Australia, how you can leverage this is that we are a very proud multicultural country ourselves, right? So 31.5% of Australians were born overseas. Over 50% of Australians have a parent that is born overseas as well, just like myself. I'm born and raised in Australia, but my family are born in Vietnam, right? So what we see here is a massive figure, 33 billion Australian dollars was sent from Australia to overseas. And it does show this powerful connection between diaspora communities and the country of origin as well. And when we bring that back to Indonesia, over 100,000 Indonesian-born Australians live in Indonesia, live in Australia as well. And 200,000 Indonesian Australian alumni do hold this special connection between Australia and Indonesia as well, through different programs and scholarships of coming to study within Australia, programs like the Muslim Exchange Program, the Australian Indonesian Leadership Program as well, and other very official programs there. And we can't talk about Australia-Indonesia connection without talking about Bali, right? Us Australians, we really love Bali, and over 1.5 million Australians do visit Bali each year. And some stay on, some create businesses as well. And it really forms a very special personal connection for Australians to give back to Indonesia as well. So later in the webinar, we'll be introducing Yayasan Insan Guna as well, who has significant experience fundraising in Bali from foreigners and Australians as well. And the beautiful thing about Australia is we're not just multicultural, but we're also multi-faith as well. So over 1 million Australians are Muslim, right? So that makes up 3.2% of our population. So it's beautiful to see that giving is such a core pillar of Islam itself, with the principles of zakat and sadaqah as well. And it's very beautiful to learn about these concepts even further being here in Jakarta this week. And Myriad Australia, we've supported one of our donor advised funds fundraise $1.3 million from the community, bringing the funding together during Ramadan periods since 2021 as well. So, if you see on the map, it's just we've skipped the map, that's okay. So in terms of Australian donors, right, we are really incentivized to give to DGR1 registered charities. So what is DGR1, right? DGR1, similar to the 501c3 tax registration, is a special registration that allows charitable organizations to receive tax-deductible donations, right? So individuals who do donate to DGR1 registered charities are able to receive a tax receipt and then reduce their taxable income at the end of the day. So pay less tax essentially. That's a big incentive for a key segment of Australian funders, just like the trust, the foundations, the institutional funders as well. These people only donate to DGR1 organizations and registered organizations, right? And in my time working for a private family foundation, the first thing I asked people was, do you have DGR1 status, right? So if you want to start fundraising in Australia, this is a must as well. So now we talk about how do you get this DGR1 status, right? There's two ways to fundraise in Australia, similar with the US as well, right? So the first one is the more traditional route. You can go through and register a charity within Australia. You can do all that paperwork. It's quite a long process. 6 to 12 months is the minimum. But I know of local and domestic charities in Australia who have been pushed back as well. So this registration is quite difficult to get. And so if you want to register a DGO1 organization in Australia, you must have 2 local board directors who live in Australia. You must have a secretary that lives in Australia as well, right? So that's our traditional route and how you would think about this in the past. But right now, there's an innovative product and platform that Myriad Australia can offer you, which is the Australian Friends Fund, right? So you can get up and running within 6 to 8 weeks. It's much faster. We handle all of the administration in terms of the compliance, the legal, and the reporting costs as well. And as Indonesian charities, you can focus on really what you do best, right? Which is you shake hands, you make the relationships, you share your stories, do the pitching, and then make the ask at the end of the day. You focus on the fundraising, and then at Myriad Australia, we handle all of the back end for you, really, and issue the tax receipts and things like that for you. So yeah, this is this is a little bit about the Australian ecosystem, our connection with Indonesia, which is very special for all of us here as well, and a little bit about how you can get started in terms of the DGL1 status and how to overcome this barrier through the Australian Friends Fund, right? But Alexia and I will come back in a second to tell you and share more about the Friends Fund service, right? But before we begin, I'm going to pass over to Mia at Yayasan IDEP as well, who will begin to share with all of us here her fundraising experiences from the US and from Australia as well, just to share real life examples from Indonesia and somebody who's really walking the path of what we're sharing today. So I'll pass the floor over to Mia.
Okay, thank you, Leon. Such beautiful explanations. So, hello everyone. How are you all doing? I hope you are still hanging in there. I know this is the special time of the day, right? After lunch, when the food was great, the air feels a little warmer, and the temptations to nap is very real, right? So first of all, I want to thank you for not falling asleep yet and for not taking a nap instead of listening to us. I hope you might not get bored because of this. Let me promise you, it won't be like a heavy lecture. Instead, it will be like sharing stories about how a local NGO, how a small NGO like IDEP can tap into the world of international donors to support its patients. So my name is Mia, and I am from IDEP Selaras Alam. We've been around like 25 years now, and people often ask about our age. Why a small NGOs like IDEP can manage to stay alive for so long? Let me tell you the formula. First is the hard work. The second is the community and donor trust. And the third one, and also the most important, is having a little bit of a coconut water since you are living in Bali. Joking I was. So let's get into it. Next slide, please. Next slides, please. Okay. So let me begin by introducing who we are. IDEP was established in 1999. Like many other grassroots NGOs, we were born out of the challenges. In our case, it is like a social and economic challenges or crisis at the late 90s. Since then, we have evolved into an NGO with national reach. Our mission is to build a permaculture-based resilience. What does that mean? It means that we focus on strengthening communities' capacity to face a challenge or disasters, and doing this through participatory methods with permaculture principle that emphasize the sustainable, the integrated, and the locally adapted systems. Until now, we have reached about over 44,000 people from our programs, and we call it as a direct beneficiaries in 25 provinces. Now let's move to the next slide. Yeah. So how do we sustain our work? Yeah, I know when we talk about securing funding or fundraising, it's always been a challenge for small or local NGOs like us. But over time, we have learned that how you fundraise is as important as how much you raise. Our approach is what we call as a purposeful fundraising for local resilience, and the goal to answer our strategies, supporting our visions, allow us to be accountable to communities and build a long-term organizational sustainability. Currently, our funding comes from three streams. The first one is the customer-based business unit, our eco products. We have a small scale social enterprise that's selling something like educational kits, like permaculture handbook or permaculture guidebooks. And also we sell farming inputs like compost and seeds that comes from our assisted farmers. While it only brings like 40% of revenue, it's still valuable since it reflects our knowledges and creates unrestricted incomes for us. The second one is client-based eco-services. This include educational visit, consultancy, and training. For example, school group comes into our demonstrations farm or our demonstrations plot to learn about sustainable agriculture or water conservations. Or maybe a corporations hire us to run a permaculture training, or maybe an individual comes to us to build a permaculture garden or permaculture house design. And the last one is our largest share. It's about 82% of our total revenue. These funds comes from project-based grants funded by international and national donors, agencies, philanthropic, and institutions. Diversifying income like this help us reduce the risk and survive even the donor funding fluctuates. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Now you may be wondering, how do we get access to international donors? Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, okay. We have found three core strategies that work for us and maybe work for you too. The first one is the joining intermediary networks. We partner with trusted intermediaries like Myriad and Give to Asia's. Those two are organizations that connect local NGOs to funders abroad. These intermediaries often help us understand the local context and the donor expectations. The second one is establishing local resilience through permaculture-based approach. We promote the story of community resilience using our 6 sectors model. It shows, it also explains the integrated nature of our work that can make donor approach us. And the last one is our 3 core fundraising strategies. First one is we proactively developing program proposals based on community needs that align well with donor expectations. We launch some specific or thematic campaigns that focus on specific issues like water conservation, seed sovereignty, or women empowerment. And the last one is leveraging networks and visibility through attending forums like this, media presence, and partnership. Okay. Next, please. Yep. This brings us to the next important part, intermediary collaborations. I know that partnering with intermediaries like Give to Asia and Myriad has made a big difference. And why are they important for us? First, they expand our access to donors we wouldn't reach directly. Until now, those two organizations have helped reach donors we wouldn't find on our own, especially private foundations and closed overseas networks, or maybe a limited open calls from philanthropic or corporate foundations. They also help us validating our work that increase visibility and also act as a trusted credibility layer, especially for the first-time funders unfamiliar with Indonesian CSOs like IDEP. And then they also enhance our proposal quality. So Myriad and Give to Asia has supported us in refining pitches so it can be aligned with international donor expectations. And the last one, they offer learning opportunities from monitoring to strategies. Especially like these forums, they offer us like forums to get learnings and best practices and what can be done or what not can be done. Okay. Next slides, please. I think I'm almost done. Yeah. From that, we have learned that intermediaries have opened the door, but as an organizations, as an NGO, we still have to walk in, present value, and build the trust. To close, I want to say Matur Suksma, a thank you in Balinese. We are still learning, we still face challenges, but we believe in local leadership and global support meets, they can unlock powerful change. So if you are an intermediary, donors, or fellow NGO, we'd love to connect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mia, for sharing the story of Yayasan IDEP. And yeah, I definitely did not fall asleep. That was incredible to listen to you and share your experiences there as well. So as an intermediary, Myriad Australia and Myriad USA, we like to say that we build the bridge for you to connect you over to donors over into Australia and the US as well, right? You still have to do the fundraising efforts yourself, still have to, like I said before, shake the hands, make the pitch, make the ask as well. And then we provide all of the fiscal sponsorship and the infrastructure there available for you. So next, we've got Dwayne from Yayasan Insan Guna, right? He's ready to go on the screen, so I'll let Dwayne introduce yourself and then head off to the conversation. So the floor is yours.
All right, so first and foremost, thanks Myriad for inviting me to be here. I feel it's a great opportunity to showcase what we've been able to do inside of Indonesia here. So my name is Dwayne James Dinton, better known as DJ Dinton. So Yayasan Insan Guna was born basically out of need. So here in Indonesia, it's not exactly easy for a foreigner to get proper legal workability under a yayasan. So I'm going to give you a little history of me and my NGO work here in Indonesia. Since 2016, I've been working in the NGO sector. I helped build an international NGO here in Bali, starting with employees of only 2, myself and my wife, up to a 24-person organization, rescuing food from all the hotel industry and tourism sector here in Bali. We were able to serve over 1 million meals to the needy communities back in 2019, but then COVID hit and basically that formula was taken out from underneath our feet. The hotels shut down. People were going hungry on the island of Bali, and it was presented to me to start fundraising and take care of the organization. And so I found myself quite good at it. And after a while of time doing so, of taking care of the organization, establishing 5 rescue kitchens across Bali, feeding thousands of meals a day, I just thought to myself, maybe I can be of more use for local NGOs on the ground here in Indonesia that need help. So that's when Right Reasons Funding was born. So that way, it's a PTPMA where I can get my work permits and I can legally reside in Indonesia. After establishing Right Reasons Funding in 2021, we were able to raise our first $1 million by 2023, with a lot of that going to support mental health organizations, women's empowerment, in particular, education, English language development, internships and fair job placement within the tourism sector. So at the end of 2023, I did a self-evaluation of that $1 million, and I said, okay, am I happy with how it was spent? Because what we were doing is doing events and fundraising and giving to the NGOs under a trust system. And basically my answer was no. So basically the way that we work now is we raise the money through Yayasan and Sangguna for various different causes that need to be transparent, impactful, meaningful, and then we hold the funds and we distribute based around a project basis. Yeah. So let's go on to the next slide. So the next slide is showing our different activities that we've been able to create, and it's also just highlighting where our funding is actually coming from. So Right Reasons Funding basically serves as an events company where we do meaningful events for the charities, with the funds all being held by Yayasan and Sangguna. So when I say 6 organizations, I'll try to go through these very quickly. So we got Roll Foundation, empowering Indonesian women through skill set development, education, and fair job placement. We have Educate Bali, where we're providing English teachers for local schools and providing further education around the environment. We have Ragon Foundation, which has a community kitchen, multiple permaculture gardens, university scholarship program, and again, Ragon means diversity, so a lot of small programs operating within there. We have Shove and Strides Foundation, which is a mental health awareness organization that we brought to Indonesia's first ever mental health awareness training, and are educating the people of Indonesia through that. We've just partnered with an organization called Rescue 2000, building homes for families in need, people living in substandard human conditions. We go in and we basically build them a brand new home for the entire family. And instead of now, they've been able to do 69 homes, and we're working on the 70th. And then my main project, the one that has taken my most focus, Bali Bersama Bisa. So Bali Bersama Bisa is Indonesia's first and only professional non-for-profit mental health facility. So what does that actually mean? So Indonesia actually ranks on the very bottom globally of accessibility to professional mental health for the general public. And when I say at the very bottom, I mean the very bottom. So there's a huge lack of awareness, education, and a stigma that exists around common mental health disorders such as anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, and a lot of locals suffer in silence, and they don't have access to professional mental health help. So Bali Bersama Bisa is the one that I am leading up and bringing over our team to the Philanthropic Festival of Indonesia tomorrow. So I will be seeing a lot of you guys in person. So I haven't really said a lot about them events, but we do a lot of sporting philanthropy. So creating events that reach a large audience, both local and expatriate based. So completing physical tasks that are quite difficult, and the participants raise money for the causes. So that's how we were able to raise the first $1 million through our events. And these can be things such as marathons. We have a kayak race. We've done an obstacle course race, and other things such as gala dinners, meaningful presentations, taking over venues, and really, I think what Yayasan and Sangguna and Right Reasons Funding is really good at is reaching a large audience and having something to offer back to our donors in the sense of awareness, customers, and yeah, just basically taking people who are willing to give and putting them on a map of people who can make a difference for their business as well. So yeah, through our partnerships with these other organizations and Myriad in particular, we've been able to do some of the incredible work I mentioned. I mean, the mental health facility currently employs 20 plus mental health professionals, including psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, support workers, all providing around the clock care for people in need. We've even went as far as developing the emergency crisis plan for somebody experiencing suicidal ideation or attempting to take their own life for the Disaster Management Association of Denpasar here in Bali. Through each NGO that we support, I can sit here and I can talk about the impact being made, but it's an organization that has now been empowered through community, through platforms such as Myriad. I feel our job is to stand in the background and empower the local NGOs to do their job, to provide the funding from us so that they can focus on their noble missions. And Myriad has done exactly that for us, yeah? So moving on to my last slide, I'm a farmer by background, so I really believe in a feet on the ground, hard work approach. Yeah. So when I was first introduced in the charity sector, a wise man once told me, once you're here in the charity sector, you're going to live, you're going to breathe it, and you're probably not going to have many friends, and your life's going to revolve around the work that you do. And at the end of the day, that became true for me as well. But in saying that, it's not a bad thing. For me, hard work pays off. So through community engagement, whether that's through our events, whether that's through our services, we want to grow that community. We currently operate our holistic well-being program with Bali Bersama Bisa, with nearly 1,000 people inside of that group, where we offer daily programs for better mental health. So a lot of them are physical activities, free gym, free paddle, free run communities, but we also offer the clinical aspect of that. And then we also have a few thousand people who have participated in our events, came to one of our NGOs, met us directly firsthand, and they become the walking marketing for us, yeah? Because by us working hard, being transparent, and showing them where their dollars are going, they continue to put in the work for us, yeah? So the event, we will continue to grow those through new ideas, new people, new collaborations. And at the end of the day, again, being transparent, making sure our events go to deliver high impact to what's promised to the donors, to the participants, and to the corporate sponsors who get behind. Now, travel and expansion is something kind of new to us, wanting to grow here in Indonesia to bring our impact even farther. I would focus that growth a lot on Bali Bersama Bisa and furthering mental health care here in Indonesia. So as I said, I will be coming over tomorrow morning to join you guys for this festival. But if all goes well, we'll be looking at opening a second mental health facility for the people of Indonesia in 2026. So with that being said, all of this, like Bali Bersama Bisa, I ran around, I did event after event, and I could come up with money here and there. And when I say here and there, they're large amounts of money, but a mental health facility with 20 plus staff is a large budget to hold. So that's where Myriad came in. Thanks to our corporate donor over in Australia, we've been able to operate Bali Bersama Bisa at full scale for the last 18 months and impact over 12,000 people with professional mental health assistance. And also, while I'm on the topic, I would just say thank you as well to the Myriad USA. They helped us build a community center in the middle of the trash pit here in Suwon. So we are providing education, food to the trash picker families of Bali, providing them with a better future in long-term education. But that community center serves as our hub. So again, this platform, Myriad, I owe a huge thank you, and I just can't say it enough, because they simplified the process and made it so easy for me to get it involved in to meet the donor requirements of the tax deductibility. So that is me and Yayasan and Sanguna. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DJ. And it's really great to focus on the different aspects of how our partnership has helped grow both Yayasan IDEP and Yayasan Insan Guna. Before we get into our next topic, I also just wanted to ask a question to both Mia and DJ. I liked what Mia said earlier, that how you raise is as important as how much you fundraise. I think that's it's quite catchy, I think, and it really opens my eyes as well. And speaking of that, in terms of how you raise, might you be able to share like advice or tips on how to start? Like what was your starting point in terms of reaching out to overseas donors? Do you have any advice for some of our audience members here who are thinking to start on this journey? So if you can just give a quick advice there before we wrap up this section of the webinar. So maybe we can start off with Mia.
Sorry, can you repeat the question since I have a bad signals here, so I have to turn off my camera. Sorry for that.
No problem. So I was just asking if you could share some advice for those who are starting out or starting off with tapping their US donors. Maybe you have some tips that you can share given your journey. Maybe just a quick one. Or Dwayne, or DJ, if you're ready.
I can jump in here. So again, it's first and foremost for me, it's about believing in the cause. Yeah. So by believing in the cause 100% utterly and completely, and being able to hold that conversation and having that transparency of like, this dollar will impact one life in this way, right? So when, in my opinion, you should probably have a basic of operation or a basic theory of operation proven here in Indonesia. And as long as you have that, you believe in it, just hold that conversation, hold your space, be direct about what you need and why you need it, and people will be willing to give. Yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you, DJ. Mia, were you able to hear my question? Yeah, great.
I think it should start with building trust, not just funding. So US-based donors, whether institutional or individual, I think they are often relationship driven. So before asking for funding, I think it is best for us to invest time in understanding. Sorry for the noise. I think it's best for us to invest time in understanding their priorities, values, and language, and also be clear about the missions and impact, and practice telling our story in a way that resonates globally while staying rooted to our community context. And also be prepared for have a strong program documentations, clear financial reports, and the ability to articulate your proposal. In our case, we also use the approach by theory of change and logical framework analysis. I think US donors stands to expect transparency and also accountability and measurable outcomes. That's from me.
Right. Thank you so much, DJ, again, and Mia. These are really very insightful, and it's always inspiring to hear the other side of the equation, right? So Liam and I are here talking about Myriad USA and Myriad Australia, but it's always so refreshing to hear from our partners and how they really make use and maximize the partnership. And, you know, each partnership is really different. You know, seeing how you can work with an intermediary really depends on how you see yourself in that plan for fundraising, and at the same time, how you can truly maximize these kinds of partnerships. So let's move on. Being conscious of time, we want the next section to be around maybe 10 minutes, Liam, and then we could open up to questions. We just wanted to reiterate that you can make use of the Q&A section that you can see on your screen to type in your questions, and we'll read them out. So coming from the experiences of our partners here, I think it's quite great to see how they have been able to make use of the Friends Fund solution. So Liam and I are here to talk more about that and unpack that. And as Mia and DJ had shared, it is really the last mile in terms of your fundraising. Mia had just shared also that how much work it takes to create the program, to create a proposal, and to actually build the relationship with your donors. So this is where our Friends Fund solution can come in, because you can concentrate more on that kind of work in building your relationships, in conducting the donor engagement, and actually fundraising, while we provide the solution once you're ready to receive the funds. So the Friends Fund solution, I will talk about these few points and then I'll pass it over to Liam. So basically you can expand the base of your support and have your donors receive the benefits, the tax deductible benefits in either Australia or in the US when you open a fund with an intermediary like Myriad USA or Myriad Australia. So we have similar ways of doing this solution of managing the Friends Funds program. So first off is we provide a unique donation page for your organization, and you can launch fundraisers wherein you can feature information about your organization. It can be first general information about your organization, and at the same time create campaigns that are specific to, say, a program, or like if you are participating in a giving day, like what we have, Giving Tuesday, which is in the US, it's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Or in other countries, you might have like, say, a philanthropic week, for example. So you can have these kinds of campaigns and feature that in this online donation page, making it easy for your overseas donors to give, because you have this unique URL and it's easy to share. Now in this world of social media and being able to quickly share these kinds of information, that's also able, the solution is able to do that. Liam had already mentioned the back office support. So this basically means providing the receipting that is needed for your US or Australian donors for them to claim the tax deductibility. Sometimes it might also mean if you're applying for, say, a grant in the US that requires a fiscal sponsor to receive the grant on your behalf, we can help you by providing the documentation that's needed by the US grant maker. So sometimes these are financial documents, Form 990s, very US IRS related documents. So this can support in your grant application. We call it, next is the simple fund release process. So basically we hold the funds on your account, and we release them through an international grant making process. Basically, we need to ensure that the funds that are raised will be used for charitable purposes, and we use a simple grant form and process for us to gather that information. We also conduct a due diligence on the organization, which basically is a review of your registration and financials, which is quite standard for international grant making as well. And then lastly, and both of our partners have mentioned this, you will also have access to training and resources about fundraising, which might help you in planning for your engagement with your donors or your own fundraising planning. So that is available on our website as well. Yeah, Liam, off you.
Thank you so much, Alexi. And so, yeah, we're talking about the fee structure, right? In terms of, setting up your own 501c or setting up your own DGR1 status. How innovative this is because of the very competitive cost structure for this as well. So there's a one-time fee that you'll pay, 2,000 Australian dollars, which is at the starting level. And when you do open more Friends Fund across the Alliance, so if you open one in Australia first and then you move on to the US, And then across the Alliance in Canada, in New Zealand, in Hong Kong as well, it really opens up the world in terms of your fundraising oyster, opens the world up for you, right? And so this is a very small investment to be able to unlock different geographies as well. Another benefit is we list you on Benevity. It is a tech platform that allows corporations all across the globe to make donations via their workplace giving programs, and they do get employment matching as well. So we enlist you on these platforms as well. And in Australia particularly, there's hundreds of thousands of people who are connected with the biggest corporations, the banks, the big tech giants and the Microsofts of the world, right? They're on these platforms as well, and they're able to give you money, and they have different incentives in terms of giving before tax as well. So there's more information that we can give you as well. So in terms of the awareness raising, and you can leverage the Alliance's storytelling capabilities as well. We very often do articles, blogs, podcasts. We post on LinkedIn on behalf of our grant partners as well, and really share your stories, because really it raises the awareness, and it shows people what you're doing is trusted, and working with an intermediary like us in Myriad Australia especially, is our name is trusted in Australia as well. Donors often come to us and ask that we facilitate and help them with their payments overseas as well. So now it brings us to Q&A, and I'm very glad to see that there's a few engagement and questions in the chat so far. So I'm going to address the first one from Enda from YKBI. So in terms of how can NGOs in Indonesia remain competitive and attracting international funding without having similar incentives in place domestically? So I was able to speak to someone yesterday that there is no tax incentive for giving in Indonesia, right? And it's that concept that I was able to learn this week on Gotong Royong. The giving, when you're giving, it's just without any exception, right? So you can use this to your advantage, because it's another mechanism in Australia to really unpack and pull out funding from Australians as well. Given that there is a tax incentive, what you'll find is June 30, especially for us at the end of our financial year, is a really major giving period. So leading up to that, in May, June, or April, May, June is when people in Australia start gearing up for end of financial year, right? It's when people give, and they give a lot. All of the foundations and the institutional funders as well, what they do is they have to give away all of their money, all of their commitments before June 30 as well. So you'll see, June 30 is a major giving period. So it's something to really align with your calendars, right? So now, when you're considering funding in Australia especially, we can set you up in 6 to 8 weeks in terms of our platform. And then you'll have the tail end of this year and early next year to start working towards this major giving period as well. So it's a really timely place to really start thinking about it.
Right. I wanted to add to that on the US side, now that you've talked about this giving period. For the US side, it's the end of the year. So I think I touched upon Giving Tuesday. So in the US, there is Thanksgiving, which is usually the last Thursday of November. So they have certain events tied to that. So they have, I think, Black Friday, and then they have Cyber Monday. And so they've established Giving Tuesday, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And it kind of aligns with the holiday season. It aligns also with the end of the calendar year. So which is usually, just like what Liam said, is the high high traffic for giving. So usually US charities would be more aggressive, so to speak, or would have campaigns around this time. And so you can learn more about how you can align with these kinds of campaigns. Giving Tuesday has grown globally as well, and they usually have resources to prepare you for this time of the year. So Myriad USA had actually a webinar on this, and that's also accessible on our website. If you're interested on how you can maximize this time of the year, Or you could also take a look at givingtuesday.org itself, just to see and get some ideas on giving days as well. I wanted to address Harmini's question about what practical steps can small to mid-sized CSOs in Indonesia take to build trust and strengthen their credibility? I think we've touched upon this throughout this webinar, and it's really about building trust, right? And how do we build trust? Both our guests have mentioned transparency, and I think a lot of the donors really, being overseas, they really rely upon, say, your website. They really rely upon being able to get the information and research about your organization through online means first, right? And so I would say, and this also would focus on Mohammed's question, the single most important piece of advice, I would think is really to address that transparency by being able to share that information on your website, and being able to provide information on your programs, your annual reports, for example, because this is important in terms of being able to see your track record even from a distance. And then usually they would be asking about checking also your networks and cross-referencing that. So I think that is important, especially if you're taking a look at US overseas donors.
Yeah. Thank you, Alexi. And Harmini's other question as well, what are the key issues that are currently gaining the attention of Australian donors, for instance, right? So at Myriad Australia, our focus is on poverty alleviation, and we find a lot of our funders do want to fund this portion as well. So poverty alleviation is quite a broad area of focus, right? So anything to do with education training and creating economic empowerment for individuals, or hunger, we can support there as well. And I know that in Indonesia, and hunger and nutrition, I know in Indonesia, concepts like stunting as well is at the top of mind of Indonesians as well. And we do fund food programs that feed young people before school and things like that as well. Yeah, so the concept of poverty alleviation is really our main focus. I'm not sure if what the US can fund more broadly.
Right, we don't have that kind of definition. We always say we're cost agnostic, right? So it really is dependent on the donor's interest, right? So as I mentioned, Myriad USA works with both US donors and nonprofit organizations. So sometimes the US donor already comes to us with an organization in mind or with an interest in mind. And so it's just really being aware of that and how we can facilitate that giving overseas, right? So it doesn't need to be defined by poverty alleviation. And I think it's really important that, your awareness for these kinds of definitions is also integral in your growing your strategy on how you approach your donors. Let's take a look. So for Dian, I wanted to answer that. We do, like Yayasan Insanguna and IDA Foundation, these are just two of our current partners. Currently, for Indonesia, we have around 30 plus partners. Some of them are also in this call who have been using the intermediary facility. And in terms of numbers for 2024, we have been able to facilitate $2 million in $2.3 million in grants. And this is across different organizations in Indonesia. So in terms of success stories, it really depends on, again, the donor engagement. I keep on mentioning this because a lot of our partners always start off with their own network and being able to figure out a starting point in terms of building that relationship, right? And so it's really dependent on how they're able to build this relationship and make that outreach that leads to these kinds of success stories. Another success story is really our fundraiser feature in our online donation pages. So I just wanted to share that Myriad USA partners with an external organization called every.org. So every.org is our host for donation pages. And what's really great here is because of their technological capacity, they're able to provide algorithms so that they are able to promote to different kinds of users of the page, and at the same time you have full management of the page. So some of our success stories that are dependent on those fundraisers that partners are able to create, right? And so using that feature at a strategic time, so like say partners that respond to a disaster. So they create a campaign, that provides information about how they are able to respond to this specific disaster, say in the Philippines, and they make use of their social media or their own direct communication to donors to promote it. So it becomes a timely response and a timely way to focus on their capacity to fundraise and at the same time to build their program. So on, say, for example, disaster response.
Thank you, Alexia. I'm going to jump in and answer one from Adrian. Adrian from KSC is asking what the best practice within the ecosystem to strengthen the fundraising capabilities, and from a governance perspective as well, the minimum standards that should be fulfilled to better align with donor requirements. So I know from Myriad USA, there is a very vast library of fundraising resources and webinar series as well that is able to upskill yourselves as Myriad USA and Myriad Australia partners as well. Anybody can access these webinars at the moment, and there's a very big library. In terms of Australia and our relationship with different ecosystem partners as well, we do make introductions to fundraising consultants in Australia who do have a very big relationship with a lot of different funders in Australia and really know the local context and how the sector works with very intimate detail as well. We also have a partnership with a group called Strategic Grants as well that has a database that is able to link you with and give you awareness of all of the different players and granting bodies within Australia. And they do have services of donor matching as well, and they're able to run this service. So these are added value points as well in the relationship with Myriad Australia and then Myriad USA as well.
Thank you for that. There is a question from Mohammed Tariq Helmi regarding our fees. So we had touched upon that there is a registration fee. And of course, across the Alliance, there is a discounted fee if you open a second and a third fund. And in terms of operational fee, so once your fund is opened, we do take a 5% fee. It begins at a 5% fee for the first 100,000 of donations. And once your donations grow, the percentage also gets smaller. So I'm not sure if we could share that in a slide, but we could certainly follow up on that.
Yes.
As well. So just to give you an idea on that, so it starts at a 5% fee for the first 100,000, and it's one of the lower fees in terms of intermediary and fiscal sponsorship fees.
Yeah, and to add to that, consider it as an investment to really open and unlock a new funding geography as well. So 5% at the very start, but it can go down to 0.5% on a sliding scale in terms of operation and management fee as well. But that's the only thing. It's the one-time onboarding fee and then a management fee per grant.
But I also wanted to emphasize that, we've been saying this in small bits throughout the presentation, is that we provide a platform, we provide a solution while you get more resources and time to do the donor engagement and fundraising. So we recommend that it's really based on your fundraising planning, and that includes starting off with which donors you'd like to tap, whether or is it the diaspora. Can you start off with, say, your board members? Are they based outside of Indonesia, for example? Do they have family members abroad? So sometimes having that kind of donor mapping helps in terms of a starting off point, because we've seen more success rates for organizations that do this kind of homework and research, so to speak, because in the end, it's really about, as Liam had said, making the handshakes, and then once they're ready to donate, you have that solution, and we'll be able to catch that once you're able to do these kinds of discussions as well. So I just like to emphasize that.
Yeah, and the benefit of working with an intermediary with Myriad USA, Myriad Australia is the current trust that we have been able to build within the Australian ecosystem as well. We're often referred to people who want to make overseas organizations, and the first people they think of is Myriad Australia, right? So we've been able to build a name and a reputation in Australia, and all of the grantees who do apply for grants in Australia, right? There you tackle on our name as well, which is a fantastic thing. And I know Alexi mentioned this earlier, is that when you apply for grants within Australia for institutional funders as well, you're able to use Myriad Australia's ABN number, our Australian business number as well. And we call that in Australia an auspice, right? We auspice you and we give you our stamp essentially, and so that we receive the money on your behalf, and then we send that on to you as well in our grant process, which is very slimline and very minimal as well.
And so yes, that really does reflect. We reflect off each other's services. So right, so it's we have similar fees, we have similar processes and structures, and at the same time, we have similar tax deductibility. Benefits that can be offered to your US and Australian donors. So I know we have just a couple of minutes left. Liam and I wanted to thank you for participating. It's really great to hear your questions live here in our webinar, but Liam and I will both be in the Philanthropy Festival for the next couple of days. So Myriad Alliance has a booth, so do drop by so that we can have a conversation.
Right, so thank you, Liam and Alexi, for wonderful explanations, and also for our participants all over Indonesia. We also have participants maybe coming outside Indonesia. Thank you for being here with us. So ladies and gentlemen, these are examples from US and Australia perspective. But please keep in mind that Alliance has members doing similar work for donors globally, worldwide, in Europe, in Canada, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, the UK, and New Zealand. So by being with us indirectly, you guys are promoting in our global network across the world. And for those who has been joining with us, it's not, I've been so grateful that, for example, for IDEB, Yayasan Ekonusa, KSA, they have been very good with their fundraising strategy. But then what we need to learn from them as well, there are strategies that define and refine across the years, which is linked with their vision, mission, and etc. Right? So it is true, the effort, the result is equal, must go together. That's including about the investment that we put in place to make sure we can reach the organization overall strategy. So we cannot answer all the questions. I have noted down all the questions, but please, you remember our faces. You cannot miss us. We are everywhere in Philanthropy Festival. So we will have a booth, as Alexi said, maybe we can present. So yes, So here you can see if you enter the booth sections, we are just at the entrance. You cannot miss us, right? We are there. And then we also have our three members. We'll have the speaking role. Our CEO, Myriad Alliance, Burger Stampada, will be on session number 14. And Anita Toy from Executive Director from Myriad Australia will be on para session 4. And then Dixon from Temasek Trust from Singapore will be on session number 16. So please, I hope you have registered. If yes, after the sessions, we can always have say hello, catching up, and then continue discussion, exchange our contacts, because this webinar, this conversation, this networking does not end here. It's continuing throughout the period of time, right? And I believe we have shared our emails. Do not hesitate to reach us. And as much as possible, we will try our best to answer your questions. Thank you so much for all the commitment to stay 1.5 hours with us. A big applause for everybody. And then without any ado, we will close the session. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu atas waktu yang diberikan atas hari ini telah berkumpul bersama kami. Semoga besok kita bisa bertemu lagi sampai tanggal 8. Terima kasih. Matur suksema.